We need to give the little one back.
Okay, bad things will happen.
Talk about a hole-in-one. And with that, welcome to our second episode of the
Long Take Podcast
by Sequeira Studios.
Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm excited. We have Riiiide Raffi here, one of our colleagues, collaborators. The Long Take Podcast, a podcast by indie filmmakers digging into the art, technique, and realities of making movies outside the system. Enjoy the ride. Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm excited. We have Riiiide Raffi here, one of our colleagues, collaborators, local film nut. Yeah, introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me. Riiiide Raffi. I am a film director and writer from the UK. Been based in Berlin for about 5 years. Been trying to sort of get myself involved in films as much as I can. I started going to Filmmakers and Movienerds about 2 years ago. And met a lot of guys here, and sort of writing a feature at the moment. So
amazing. Yeah, tell us about how'd you get involved in movies? Like, what's the first time that really made you think, hey, I want to be a filmmaker?
I think it was just watching movies growing up. I was used to go around my nan's house, watch loads of VHSs. Just had a cabinet full of stuff. So always been interested. But I think it was like 2015. I tried my hand at making a feature. Failed miserably. But it was like a shaky cam, Blair Witch style kind of thing. We shot in London. We shot in the south of England. Hired a big underground cave thing, which was really cool. And then we shot in Belgium. Tried to edit it all together, like on my own. It just absolutely fell apart, and hard drive corrupted and all that kind of stuff. So I sort of went back to basics. Yeah, I know. So went back to basics and just started writing. And I've written maybe 7 or 8 screenplays now. Jawlock was one that I thought was really feasible, which is my film I'm currently working on. So we shot that last year with Tom as our DP. Apparently that's what we're working on.
What did we shoot that on, Tom?
Red Raptor.
Red V Raptor X.
V Raptor X, yeah. I always say Red Raptor, yeah.
Yeah.
V Raptor X.
Yeah. Okay, poetic that you had a problem. And what we're hoping on this episode is to really share the things we've learned as being a filmmaker. And so it sounds like you lost a drive. Man, that's every editor's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Did it ever finish, like the movie?
We finished shooting, yeah. So it was really kind of a bit scrappy. A lot of it was, everything was scripted, but it was kind of a basis for the story. We wanted to try and had something to aim for, but a lot of it was kind of, we wanted it to sound natural and to sort of feel really real and authentic. So a lot of it was improvised. But yeah, everything was shot. Went to edit. Was just messing around for a while with that, and then my old Mac said bye.
That also happened to me once.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not the greatest feeling, but you live and learn. So yeah, maybe I'll make it one day again.
Is it filmed on this old VHS camera that you have at your home?
Yes, it was shot on that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so annoying to get the footage on your computer because you have to re-record it.
Well, at the time, it actually did work. The panel actually worked at the time. It was just a case of now it doesn't, because it's about 20 years old. Yeah, not 20 years old, 15 years old. So but you live and learn, I guess.
Yeah, the Zen Buddhists talk about the impermanence of things, and I've always believed that film has an impermanence because I shot like 12 short films all on mini DV, and I have nothing to show. I don't know where those things are. I thought I transferred them to a hard drive. And I went through this hard drive also looking for some lost crypto keys, Bitcoin at $2 each. But anyways, fast forward. And I found out that I don't have any of that stuff. I have one, early film, a music video I did for this band called Second Chance. And they just put it up on YouTube. I found it on YouTube. And so that was it. But I have a bunch of short films I made. And because I didn't really do good data wrangling, I don't really have them today. But now I think my goal is take everything, put it on a DVD. DVD has a shelf life of like maybe 20 years. I think if you get a certain kind of DVD, it may be longer. and I'm just going to take a master of every short film, whatever, just stick it on there, keep it stored somewhere, because some of this stuff is too big. Like we shot in the red, hit your film. It's like, what, I don't know how much we shot. We shot maybe 30, 40 minutes of film, and it's 7 terabytes of data.
Yeah, I think all in all, it was just under 6 hours of footage.
Yeah. Oh, 6 hours. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
shit. Okay.
Which is quite
7 terabytes. And so I have a NAS, and it's like basically using almost the whole NAS just to do that. But anyway, so what do you do differently now? So you had this bad experience. I mean, have you just, you're never editing again? Is that how, like, your take, or are you like backing up now?
Yeah, I've got some hard drives that we back everything up to. So I've got everything. I know you've got everything. I know Tom had everything, but I've now got everything on my hard drives too. So you live and learn from that, I guess. Yeah.
Cool.
Always 2 backups, at least.
Yeah.
Ideally 3, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm always getting a bit worried about that. I heard stories of people losing footage because of the brakes of the tram. I'm not sure if that is like a real thing,
Shit.
but they're magnetic. So if you unplug your hard drive at the wrong time in a tram, it will delete all the footage.
Oh
So
my God.
I've heard so many horror stories, and since then I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Just give it like 3 backups. I also can't sleep after a shoot. The first thing I do is just like back up somewhere.
Yeah. I wish. So I really like these NVMe M.2 enclosures that are fast. They have like a 40 gigabyte one now. I just wish that every single one of them would have 2 slots in it, and that you could mirror. And so that way, like, if one of the drives in there crashes, you know, good chance you have a backup. And my NAS is, you know, it's mirrored, so it's pretty good. And then we got this big machine over here that's like 24 terabytes of data, and it's like striped with parity. And yeah, so actually, I don't know if it's 5, but anyways, that was expensive, but you kind of need to do these things, especially with raw footage, all the stuff that we're shooting at on raw. It's pretty insane. But tell us a little bit about Jawlock, because I think it's a very interesting approach that you did here, and I would love to, tell us about like what's unique about the movie, and then maybe Tom talk about, like, because you DOP'd it in this unique circumstance, what did you do differently than normal? But anyways, tell us about it.
Sure. So we, the whole film is actually told through the perspective of a mouth. So you're watching it all unfold through this mouth, and it kind of makes sense down the line through the story what actually the reason why that it's told that way. But I thought it was quite an interesting, just a perspective to view something through. I'd never really seen anything like that before. I was watching, I just saw an Instagram photograph of someone that had done some like inner mouth jewelry, just this proper hipster stuff. And it was like this metal piece that was on the roof of the mouth, and someone had used a 360 camera to shoot that perspective. I was like, that's interesting. I've never seen any videos from that, but I know you can get these Insta360 cameras. So tested with Insta360, didn't quite work lighting wise, because although it does delete itself, you can still see the shadows from itself. So that didn't really work as a solution. So the next thing was looking at 3D modeling, the actual getting an asset that looks realistic enough that would pass off as it, filming the exterior, and then lighting the interior based on what's going on light-wise around, and lots of that. I guess Tom can go into the specifics of how we managed that.
Yeah. I mean, in general, like, I wanted to start a bit earlier, like breaking down the project, because I think you did a phenomenal job with producing the whole thing. I just remember that you were like just taking care of everything. I think next time it would be cool to just like have 8 persons that like do all this stuff for you. That was absolutely crazy.
Too bad you're a director. It's like producers are the hardest thing to come by, and you're so good at it.
But I think it's also good to produce your own short films, because
sometimes
you need to suffer to realize
how much work goes into
how hard it is. It's actually really hard. And I remember that you like that you asked me in between productions. I was like, I wasn't even sure if I can accept it, but I really wanted to do it, because I think like this concept of a completely point of view short film was like really appealing to me. And I think we just finished Red Bloom, and I had like 2 music videos to cut, and I was like, oh my God, like so fucking stressful. I don't even know if I can handle. But at the same time, it was really cool that the concept didn't require that much of pre-production, which you would normally have with like planning all the angles together and stuff like that, because it was a bit of improvisation, I would say.
And that's why I guess we had quite a low amount of footage. Because I mean, for what's essentially a half-hour thing, having just under 6 hours worth of footage is kind of unheard of, I guess, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
don't
mean, I
know.
think that, I mean, to be fair, you need to look more at like adolescence or something because, I mean, essentially it's a POV, it's a one take.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling a shooting ratio of a one take is much, much higher than, traditional.
Yeah, but
Because
if
you
you're
got to
going
get it
for
right, you got to
yeah,
get timing right, you got to get like it was funny because on the set, not only did you have like an overlay, but you also had a picture of the person so that when people are looking at the camera, they're looking at the right place. And there's just so many little details that you had to do to kind of make this work right. And yeah, I think it's just kind of unique in that all the things that we've never done before, and you have to go and figure out.
Yeah.
a lot of the solution, the kind of go-to solution for this is to do it with a 360 camera. But the fact that we didn't is quite cool because we get the definition in the footage, and it also doesn't warp or distort. So you would kind of assume that perspective, you would get some kind of fisheye thing over on the footage
Because it's so wide, yeah.
because it's so wide. But actually, from what I've seen so far, from what we've been editing together, it does kind of look how you would just very filmic in a way that I didn't expect it would, which is it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Red.
but you talked about the lighting. Like I remember that we went to all the locations before, like
Yeah.
once with like Charlie, amazing set designer,
Yeah, incredible.
absolutely incredible, and we just had a look at all the locations that we used, except from your apartment. I can't really remember. Yeah.
Yeah, because we filmed the dentist in my kitchen.
Dude, when I saw that, I'm like, man, where'd you rent this place at?
Yeah,
And
same.
then he told me it was your kitchen. I'm like, what the F?
Yeah.
It's like movie magic in its fullest. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of getting all of the props right, because the thing is, it's kind of period. It's not, but it is. It's kind of 90s-ish. There wasn't really a specific date. I think 93 was actually the date that was on some of the smaller detail things that Charlie made, but that's kind of a rough estimate. So you can't, I looked at renting a dentist surgery, and you just can't get anything that looks of the period. Everything's obviously quite high tech nowadays. So we had to build it from scratch, and it was like, okay, well, what space can we guarantee is going to be? I'm going to be able to adjust however I want. So we painted the walls, and we did it in my kitchen, with the help from Balesburg Studios for all of the amazing props and equipment that made it look like that.
There was a bear. There was actually a bear in his
In the basement.
entrance. No, first of all, it was in the entrance, and everyone was like greeting it.
Yeah, no, it was kind of the mascot for the whole thing.
It was super cool.
Yeah, it was great.
But this leads me into like, this is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in filmmaking recently was, goddamn, how important is production design? So when I think about a film, like I'm always thinking about the color grade, like how's this going to look in the end? Okay, we're going to tweak the colors. But then when I started looking at the footage and I saw the sets and I saw the details that Charlie did, and hopefully we'll put a link to her in the show notes because she's phenomenal. You should hire her. You should use her. And I realized how important production design really is, especially in a low budget. It just adds so much production value. And even Tom was saying, it's like, dude, if you nail that, like the color's already nailed. You already have a color palette. You have everything done. And like, I think anybody will tell you, the more you could do in camera, the better it's going to be.
It's like a hot take, but I feel like it's 90% of the movie. It's crazy.
I think this is the first time from the meetup I see a short film that is putting a lot of attention to all the props. When I saw the what was the mood board or the PDF that you send with all the props, and I was like amazed. I never thought of this as a step for making a short film. And right now I'm working on a short film. I'm going to be the DOP, and the first thing I told the director is that you hire Charlie, you change the bedroom, give her a budget. I think she gave her some budget, and Charlie is working on changing the bedroom to look like a teenager's bedroom. So I was like, if you want me to be the DOP, this is what I want. Hire Charlie. I've seen her work. Like it helps a lot, just making it believable that it is not your bedroom but somebody else's bedroom.
I mean, I feel like it's so important for the cinematographer to have something beautiful to shoot. And we kind of overlook that in these short films. We think about that as like the last thing we think about is like, oh, set props, whatever. Like, and this is why I think a lot of short films, you see white walls, you see just kind of average stuff. And yeah, when I saw your stuff, I was like, holy shit, this looks really, really good. And it just dawned on me how important it is. And I think now it's like everybody wants Charlie for whatever project they're working on. Like
Yeah.
we used her for a couple commercials, and it's so great to have somebody think about those little details. And I thought it was so funny because in your thing, she brought in a prop about like, I don't know, 14 eggs or something. It was just like, just the stuff she brought in was quirky.
Yeah.
And it really fits the aesthetic of this quirky film that, you're doing. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it just, it's important. And I think like Brutalist is an example where I think he was a production designer first, right? Or he was an actor. And then I think he did some production design, or am I confusing him with
Oh,
somebody
that
else?
was Robert Eggers from
Oh,
Nosferatu.
yeah, right. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, Eggers for sure. Yeah, I think when you see that stuff, you start to realize like, man, production design really sets a style, a theme, a tone. And then I think the cinematography just looks 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the lighting as well. We had a really good lighting guy.
Yeah.
Richard is
Yeah,
just...
we had Riiiide. Actually, we changed the style a bit. I remember that you sent some movies to watch and the style you wanted to go, like Requiem for a Dream, if I remember right.
Requiem for a Dream was the main reference. And that kind of informed the 90s aesthetic. Color-wise, it became a lot more yellow than
It became
I thought.
yeah, exactly.
be,
And I
yeah.
remember Richard saying that, yeah, if you want to go for that vibe of like Requiem for a Dream, how do I pronounce that right?
Requiem for a Dream, yeah.
Yeah.
Sepia
he was like,
kind of
yeah, I mean, then we need a bit more budget because it's like tough to like, it has like very magenta look.
Mhm.
And it's pretty tough to do that because you have to change a lot of set design stuff and you have to change like some contrast ratios in the lighting so you can actually mix the color in. That's what he said, if I remember right. And it became a bit more yellow, but I still like it. I don't know. Do you
When
like
you say
it?
yellow, I say warm.
Warm, yeah.
Yeah.
I banned yellow on the whole set
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah.
because I didn't want it to get too yellow.
Yeah.
And I think because there is a fine line between that, but Charlie hated me for that. but we had I mean, color wise it was kind of everything I wanted it to be. And I think when I saw the kitchen scene for the first time, I thought, okay, now I know what it is. We can and that was one of the earlier shoots as well. We kind of leaned into it a bit more for the rest of the shoots.
Also, it was more like a definition moment for the movie, for the look, what you want to like go after.
Well, just see, I mean, so I wanted the retro Americana thing, even though it's, the accents are kind of not really American, but some of them are. But yeah, that was kind of it was like the sort of, even before the 90s, maybe 80s, 70s even. And that was kind of, the mother's world. She had this sort of green retro dress on and all that kind of stuff. And that's where we were quite lucky with the stuff that Babelsberg already had, like you said, with the egg tray and all that kind of stuff. That just that kind of made it the American style that I wanted. Yeah,
we can definitely blend in some pictures as well for like the YouTube audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to him because I think it's a cool film. I think
some BTS stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I got involved is I think, man, this has festival legs written all over it, just because of the unique style. So I'm super excited. I can't wait to get this done. Like we're trying to finish the editing.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get this thing done soon, and then get it out there. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's
can't wait.
Is it fine if I talk a bit about the lighting?
Sorry.
Can I talk a bit about the lighting?
Yeah, please.
Because I think that was pretty special in this movie. Because when we came in, Richard was actually not available at the time because he was working on like crazy shooting. He was
Big
like
stuff.
shooting feature films on the highest level, and we were like, what are we gonna do in this kitchen? And I remember that we knew that we want to have like a light outside, which is like kind of the classic. But personally, I'm like a huge fan of the top light first approach. Because on YouTube and everywhere else, they always teach you like the 3-point lighting approach, which is like key light, fill light, and backlight. And I think the most important light is actually like the hair light, in my personal opinion, or like a top light, because it just gives this awesome, dramatic Hollywood look first, and then you come in with like a key light. In general, I would say fill lights are a bit overrated. At least for I don't like fill lights so much because whenever you watch a movie, like half of their face is usually like almost completely dark. They like maybe dial in a bit of a fill light, like maybe on 1-2%, but it's never like, oh, I want both sides of the face to be completely bright, because then instantly you lose like the contrast and you lose the interesting appeal of the picture. But yeah, I mean,
one of the hardest parts was that we were moving through that space, in particular the one that you're talking about in the kitchen.
yeah,
We didn't actually have, in lots of the perspectives, it was just a fixed perspective, so we could light it exactly how we wanted to see the whole image. But with that shot in particular, it's a moving shot, so we're moving through the space, so we had to light it in a way that we were able to do that and it still looked good.
yeah, it was not exactly a 360 set, because we try to stay on one side of the room, so it was
Yeah.
more like 180-degree set. But yeah, it makes stuff so much harder because you don't have like the separate shots and you can't light it perfectly, so you have to make sure you're lighting the whole room, which Richard did a phenomenal job at, I would say.
Yeah, and he was quite lucky because he had actually used that location before.
Yeah.
So he'd shot at Karabani and he'd actually shot in that exact room. So even though he didn't come with us to view it, he did some plans based on his memory from having used that same space a couple of times, I think. So, yeah.
So having a professional gaffer on set,
Yeah.
what did you learn from him? Like, what's a big takeaway?
I mean, it's like with everything. I would say the number one takeaway was that if you give your brain capacities to someone else, to another person, to do the job that you are actually doing, if you don't have that person, you have more time to spend time with the director or spend time crafting the image. So the first thing is you just give your brain capacity to another person. Second of all, I think it just helps to get his opinion on things. A lot of things we decided together, but he was always like, my biggest example that I'm always bringing up is he just came with his phone and he was like, Tom, we agreed on having the light outside the window. What do you like, version A or version B more? And then I was like, I like version A. And then he was like tapping on his phone and he had scene 1 and scene B, and lights completely changed in the room. And then he was like, yeah, I also liked version A more. And it was just a very cool thing to work like that, because you know that someone else knows way more than you about it, but you can somehow relate, because I obviously also know a bit about lighting, but not on his level of shaping the light. And then it's just a very cool experience, I would say. It just improves the image by a ton.
Yeah, I think my takeaway, besides having an amazing production designer, is it's nice, like when you're elevating your craft and you're making your next film that's going to be better than your last. Yeah, if you could involve an expert and learn something from that expert,
Yeah.
it's good. But I think there's a fine balance between being like 80 people on set versus, bare essentials. And we talked about this a lot more because Tom and I did a short film recently and we were just 3 of us, and we just blazed through. It was for a 72-hour competition, and having having a tight crew that could move fast and trusted each other, knew each other. It's like that's an amazing thing too. So there's a balance, I think. And, I think being able to be agile and nimble on your production is good, but also having experts that just know more about the thing that they're doing better than you, so you could focus on your own, is good. So I don't know where the balance is, but I will agree that production design, dude, that's like the biggest mind-blowing thing. And then 2, if as we go, always have an expert on and learn something from that expert, take it in, and then, maybe next time get a different expert.
What are your biggest learnings from Jawlock?
I think so. Crew United was probably the biggest thing I found out about, because I didn't really know much about that. That's how I found maybe 80% of the people that I was working with on this.
The German website, I think.
Yeah.
It's only
Well, I think it's it's European. Yeah, it's definitely not as big in America or England. I think they have their own respective versions of that. But yeah, that was amazing. Really utilizing ChatGPT to help with replying to people. So I'd create these mini little bot things that would generate replies based on like what they've said and what, so that really helped, because we had 200 applicants for this. And you want to get back to everybody about it, and you want to make sure you're actually seeing the best stuff. So that really helped. Because I couldn't have replied to everybody. I couldn't have done the casting and, all of the because I mean, some of the actors I think we had 42 actors in total in this, 20 main actors, and then there was 22, 23 extras as well. So, and you think you maybe sort of send 15 emails back and forwards to each of those.
Yeah,
It's a lot of emails
that's a lot of emails. Yeah.
to be doing. So that really helped utilizing that.
ChatGPT, a production hack.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then just finding out local resources, that was the main thing. So finding out about and ways that you can, you learn things on the back of that. So Babelsberg Studios, I'm everyone I speak to about this, they just don't understand that you can just go there and you can just have a look, because they have 1 million props on site, and you can just 3 different warehouses, look around, see everything you want to see. And they usually have like 20 different things for what it is that you need. So, it just gives you that choice, gives you a bit more control over what's, because most people would buy the thing they want, or,
Yeah.
whatever. So that was really cool. Yeah. And Miles vans as well. You learn from that, like the fact that they put like a fee if you go city change. So if you pick up in Berlin and then drop off in Potsdam, if you end the ride in Potsdam, you get whacked with a €50 fee.
Wow.
So you learn from that. You figure out ways around it so you can park back in the Berlin city center, so you avoid those in the future. So just lots of little things like that you pick up along the way.
Nice. What about you? What have you learned recently from any of your shoots?
Recently, what did we shoot? Oh yeah. Uh, I think this came to me like after watching a lot of short films in the community, that people write something and they think, oh, I need to find this location, and no matter how ugly it sounds there, no matter how ugly it looks, just because I wrote it, I need to shoot in this particular location. But so I'm working on the short film, and one scene is written in the kitchen, and I looked at the kitchen and I was like, no way we are shooting here. Like, just because it's written there, can you just rewrite this to be in a different location so that it can service the story and both also the final output? Just because you wrote it in kitchen, like, or you find a different kitchen to shoot at. But look, because of the schedule, we cannot find another kitchen. We want to keep everything in one place to make, everything simpler. So yeah, just suggested the director, like, yeah, if you want the images to look beautiful, let's not shoot here. Can you rewrite it? And the director was open to that. Like, okay, if you think that's the way to go, yeah, we can rewrite it. It's not affecting the story anymore. But I would say like 3 years ago, if you ask me, I was like, oh, it's written in the kitchen. We need to shoot there. I recently saw some short film that was like, they were like celebrating it, and we went for the showing, and they had this scene where they were shooting inside a tunnel, and it sounds really awful because it's very echoey. Like, the audio is really bad, and it takes you out of the story because now you cannot hear anything. It was like really intriguing up to that point, and then suddenly it's like, I cannot hear anything because the audio is bad. So either you do ADR, or you just come out of the tunnel and find a different angle and shoot there, because it was not that important for the story for them to be in that tunnel. It's just, I think it just happened because the characters were at the train station, they were coming out, just come out and shoot somewhere else, if that's possible. I think that's one of the things I am learning. Think about the final output. What can you change to service the story, at the same time also the final output, so that it doesn't look amateurish.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. My hot take, and this has nothing to do with you at all. I think everything was good, but another film I worked on editing, every director needs to edit. At least once, at least maybe twice, maybe 3 times, but every director needs to edit. This is like so critical. As a director, in say in Hollywood or professionally, whatever, your job essentially is to deliver a movie or film or footage that can be cut together and turned into a movie. And if you have all these continuity problems and you didn't shoot something right and it didn't match together, that is a director issue, 100%. And this is why I think every director should edit their first few films or whatever. I think it's critical that you understand that you can't have an actor doing a take. Every time the take is done, it's different. Oh, they say hello, put the cup down. Oh, they put the cup down, say hello. Or whatever it is, the continuity is critical. And there's whole books on script supervising and continuity, but in the low budget world that we're in, it's usually the director. And so I feel like every director should learn how to edit, and save everybody else just a tremendous amount of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big yes. You cannot know. You also cannot know what you need to shoot if you've never edited a movie.
Yeah, I mean, you get different angles, you get medium, wide, master, you get whatever. But the fact is, if you can't cut those together and there's no continuity, what's the point? And I think this is one thing I think the filmmaking group is amazing, and you're starting somewhere and you're learning and you're getting better and better. And some of you are more advanced, but it just pains me to see that from day one, we're not on top of like the continuity or teaching some of these first time directors how important it is to make sure that the actor does the same thing. I think it's important that, you kind of figure that stuff out in rehearsals instead of on the set. But to me, that's a huge hot take.
Yeah. I have another one. Going back to Jawlock, I think, especially as cinematographers, we tend to get drawn towards big cameras. Like we love Aris, we love Reds.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful. They're like, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's more like the modern equivalent of like a gun, but in a peaceful way. I don't know. There's something in us that is like making us drawn to it, and we underestimate how much it overcomplicates stuff the bigger the camera gets.
Mm-hmm.
So in our case, it was like, we wanted to shoot from a point of view perspective. What is the best way to do it? We found out about this helmet that you can have, where you can have like a red Komodo on. But then I'm like, but then I'm also the actor. I don't want to be the actor, Like it's like a bit of annoying part as a cinematographer. And then we were like, oh yeah, I mean, we have the access to a red B-Raptor X.
Yeah, that's right.
That we really wanted to use because, I mean, the colors are just beautiful. It just looks so good out of the camera. It has like a certain style.
Yeah. To be fair, we also have a red Komodo X, which is a lot smaller. But I think to your point, you want the big.
Yeah, but it's also a lot worse in low light, and that was a bit of a problem, I would say. But what I wanted to say is, if we would have just taken like an FX3, for example, and ignore the whole other part, we could have saved an easy rig, this thing that you can put about your head, so you can you're not dying when you're lifting all this weight, or even go even smaller. I saw people making films with like a Blackmagic Studio camera or something like that, and it looks absolutely amazing because it's about the lighting and set design and not so much about the camera. And long rant, but I think we should just stop focusing too much on cameras because it can make stuff overcomplicated.
If I remember correctly, the reason why the red was considered was so you could shoot 8K and reframe if needed, because it was going to be handheld. There's still a lot of uncertainty about how the overlay is going to work and stuff. So I think part of the reason and why it's 7 terabytes is because you shoot 8K because you can reframe. But
essentially all you're doing in the end is shooting in a small room and you can't reframe.
Yeah.
So it's a bit...
Well, I think you have to shoot so much wider, and I think that's
a
lot of people don't think about that. You have to shoot super wide, and so it looks funny on the camera monitor, but in reality, you recrop and you're good.
I think it's just a temptation to shoot with a really big and cool camera that also delivers amazing footage, but sometimes it's not the most practical thing. Would I do it again? Probably, yes, it worked.
You go for the Blackmagic Ursa 12K Cine LF.
Yeah, no, that's
even
more
bigger.
heavy than the Ari, so I guess I skip on that one.
But it's 12K.
Yeah, but
imagine all the
I want to have
reframing
a
you could
back,
do.
Already broken half almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great camera so far. Just big and bulky. All right, so yeah, I think 12K, it's huge. I think we learned some lessons about big cameras, and for Christ's sakes, the Creator was shot on FX3. I know that's always used as an example, but I mean, maybe there's a lesson to be had there. Maybe we shouldn't be making films like Hollywood. Maybe we should not be emulating them with all the big gear, big equipment, crew. I mean, god dang, even some of the equipment they have is so ridiculously expensive, and DJI comes out and it's just as good. Like, I mean, the Teradek systems are pretty expensive. You get one extra frame rate, and you got DJI for a fraction of the cost. And so, I think that's an important lesson. It's like you don't need to emulate Hollywood. You just need to emulate enough to get your movie made for whatever budget you have. And so,
But you also need to know what you need and what you don't need. And I think in the beginning, when you're like a filmmaker that's just starting out, you don't necessarily know what exactly you need to make like a good movie. You also underestimate how important screens are. For example, that like you're like, oh, I can use the small screen on my FX3, and then you buy like an external monitor, and you're like, what the hell? Why does my footage look so much better from just buying a monitor? But the reason is obviously that you can see it for the first time, and that's the kind of stuff that you have to figure out. Like, what would you say, Ricky? What is really essential for the director?
The monitors really, really helped. I mean, the things that I'd made before, obviously much smaller with the little camera that
Yeah.
I have, the little, I think it's a Sony HVL 1000E, so it's like maybe 15 years old. And obviously everything you ever watch is through that tiny little monitor that's on the back of it. So having these amazing things that we could watch it live was, godsend really. Color-wise as well, you can see it in its raw form, and sometimes it looks even better than it looks now, like ungraded.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful, being able to see that. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other things that would be useful. I mean, obviously, it was good for you guys in the next room as well. Having Toby being able to do the focus pulling as well. So we had a couple of these dotted around. Richard was watching mine most of the time, because a lot of the time we timed lighting, so he had to like be in on seeing what it was. So, and obviously that wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the remote screens. So, yeah.
Yeah, it all comes together. We could have used like an autofocus lens, for example, but in a one-shot scenario, this is like a really, really risky move, because loses focus for 1 second and your whole take is like gone, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I mean, looking at the footage, I think there was some practice needed initially. So I think that's why they have a lot of takes. Just it's very hard, I think, to figure out the focus point unless you do like in Hollywood they do strict, marks here, and then they figure out calculate precisely with the tape measure what the focus should be, and then they put it into the camera, and then the walking from Mark 1 to Mark 2, so boom, I move here. But now I think more and more people are just doing this like real time focusing, and so yeah, I think a monitor is important. Probably the latency is important, but I mean the tools we have today to like do real time focus is amazing, especially for the cost. The DJI stuff has been really good. So
and yeah, actually pretty reliable.
Yeah. When we were shooting Red Bloom, I realized that it's not just the camera. Like you also need a really good tripod to like moving the camera that you have is also very like to get the cinematic shot. It's also how the camera moves, how smooth can you move it, like with the gimbal. Like you would think, oh, you just put it on gimbal, and
I hate gimbals.
because I remember like we had so much trouble with gimbal in Red Bloom shoot because either like we did not have enough practice or just like calibrating the gimbal every time you change the lens, and like being under pressure and calibrating it, and trying to get the shot and also pulling focus, and like it was a lot, but we imagined, oh, you just put FX3 on the gimbal and we get this cinematic like movement. Yeah, it's hard. Then you realize like in Hollywood they have those big things to move the camera around for a reason.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
Techno crane, slider, dolly, like everything is literally better than the gimbal.
Yeah, but then now you're 80 people on set.
Yeah.
Yeah. or you need a 20,000 euro Steadicam.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Steadicam.
Yeah, I also love Steadicams.
I'm
Yeah.
a huge Terrence Malick fan, so yeah, I just like all of his shots are just the camera is like its own person. It's just amazing. Anyways, but I think that leads me to another thing, which is you ain't gonna fix it in post.
Yeah.
Everybody says this, you're gonna fix it in post, or even at our level, like this kind of amateur level where, oh, okay, we're gonna do some VFX in post, but they do no pre-planning. They just assume, hey, if I shoot this person here on the ground and then I put somebody else there and they're not lined up or anything, that we'll be able to fix this all in post. And I don't get any kind of background plate. Like I don't get any shot with just no person there so I can match the leaves. And no, that's okay. We'll fix it in post. And I think that's just, I'm coming to this conclusion that like VFX is powerful. You could do a lot. You could do a lot with AI and stuff. But the reality is the more that you could capture in camera, the better. And this is like something that we're going to do here, which is use a projector for Unreal and try and capture stuff in camera if we can. It just also makes it easy so you don't have to do a ton of processing on the end. But this is one thing I think every filmmaker needs to realize is you ain't going to fix it in post. If you really are serious about VFX and you're planning the shot, you're getting like polygon captures of the actors, of any props, you're getting background shots or background plates, you're getting all the stuff that you need. You're getting a 360 HDRI image so you can light. It's so critical. And if you don't plan those things and you think, okay, we're just going to fix it in post. I mean, I think AI will do a lot of stuff and stuff like that, but this is my big thing. And, if you plan it ahead of time, it's okay. But if you're on set thinking, oh, yeah, I didn't plan this out too good, but we're just going to fix it in post, VFX can fix everything, it can't.
Yeah, well, I think if you just want to make something for fun and don't care about the output, yeah, that's fine. Like you can make a like oh, we just fooling around, shooting something for fun. Yeah, but like if you really care about how it's gonna come out, I think you need to learn how to do pre-production.
Yeah, maybe I should reframe this. Unless you could fix it yourself in post, you ain't fixing it in post. You know what I mean? If you're a VFX god, then do what you want. But
there's a limitation. You can be a VFX god. You can also be an audio god, and you cannot fix a bad boom mic.
Exactly. Also, the thing is how much time. Like if it takes 40 hours for like 30 frames, I don't know if that's worth it.
Music, we have like the equivalent of like fix it in post. It's called fix it in the mix.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same thing. Everyone is like recording music albums, and they're like, I don't know, mic there, and we mic the snare drum there, and the bass drum there, and then it's gonna be fine. We just record it in our rehearsal room. It's gonna be fine. And then they want this high polished mix, and like the professional mixers are barely doing anything. Like, I mean, they're obviously like professionals, but they just record it incredibly well. And it's the same in movies, in my opinion. You just have to make sure that you're close enough with the boom mic at the actors.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a lesson. Like Red Bloom had a lot of background audio trains and things like this. And you guys had to do a lot of ADR. And in fact, when we shot my recent short, I think you said 100%, oh, boom mics don't work. Boom mics don't work. We'll probably have to do ADR. It's going to sound like shit, whatever. But then Airvis boomed it. We used a good Sennheiser, and shit, the sound is great. I mean, it's very controlled environments at times, but I think, did that change your mind at all about?
Well, not so much, because I think the biggest mistake, or not the biggest mistake, the biggest problem you have when you shoot with, or is it shooting? If you record with boom mics, is that you have to be extremely close to the actor. So if you are recording a wide shot, like for example, a lot of wide shots in Jawlock, because it's like a one take, you always have the problem that the more distance you have between the actor and the boom mic, you get more reverb of the room. Different in a church than it is in a small room, but you can definitely not match them so well. So you have to make sure that in post you try to remove reverb, which is kind of hard. You can do it nowadays a bit with AI. But it's always better to like have, as you said, have a boom mic in frame and then just retouche it out.
Yeah,
that is better. Yeah,
I will say, along my last comment, don't fix it in post. If you are going to leave the boom in shot, make sure you get a background plate and just lock the camera down. Lock the camera down, get a clean background plate, and then film the actor with the boom over them, and then you can erase the boom. It's easy.
So you did that in the back door?
No, we didn't. We just, the boom was, Airvis is like,
he has a secret talent
he's
for
a
everything.
multi-talented everything guy. He's probably one of the best filmmakers in our whole group. But he boomed, and the sound was perfect.
Yeah.
Like fucking amazing, perfect. Especially for as fast and short as we were going.
One scene in the meeting room where I'm like, it's
Yeah.
a bit too much reverb, but
Yeah.
in general, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just because we're able to get it close, and we use a good indoor. The Sennheiser has two mics that are good, the 416 and then the P58 or whatever. And the P58 is always used for dialogue indoors. A lot of TV shows use it. And it's just those two are the best. I mean, there's better ones that are super expensive, but those two, I mean, they're expensive, but they last forever and they work so good. So, and in fact, like when we were talking about another time, my first camera that I bought was like a early VFX, I don't remember if it was a Sony VX2000, but it was like an early kind of version of that. And I bought a 416, and that was like, 20 years ago. And that mic is still popular. It's still used on movies. It's still an amazing mic. It's good out in bad weather. So, yeah. So maybe that's another important thing to note is that like sound is critical. Like you can have kind of shitty picture quality, maybe a mediocre story, but I would say story is pretty important. But if you have bad sound, I think it's universal knowledge that you get taken right out of the movie. And like there's no recovering from bad sound. So, yeah.
Ricky, what would you say is like the biggest challenge for directors like these days?
Biggest challenge for directors, keeping it original. I think a lot of people just regurgitate the same story again and again and again. I think having just finding original stories, trying to think of it a little bit. I know it sounds really cliche, but outside the box, that's the hardest part, really, and making sure that you're writing it in a way that you're happy with and you're not rushing it. Because I think a lot of people want to rush to get to the next thing and the next thing. But I think if you really actually focus on what you're doing, you can produce some really good work. But that's really more of a writer's answer to your director question. But yeah, I think originality is key, and also finding the right people. There's so many people that want to work on films, especially English films. I've noticed, um, and in Berlin, but finding the right person for the thing, because you'll put out an ad for AD or something, and you'll get 50 people that will apply for that, and it's it's like, who do you choose? Who's the right person to choose? And also for acting as well, you've got to filter through so many different people's CVs and different show reels and stuff, and it's just dedicating enough time to it. I mean, we were quite lucky because I think we started producing in March, and we ended up shooting in September, so that had a lot of time for me to like really, really focus on finding all the right people, and I think we stuck to the dates that we set then. And that was really good because a lot of people, drop out if you do it last minute. If you give them a couple of weeks' notice, they've always got something else on. But if you say in March, we're doing it on this day, on the 5th of September, no one's busy then. So,
Yeah.
it's just setting that as a sort of thing to aim for. And we did end up actually shooting on all the days that we planned. So we're quite lucky there.
Speaking of original, like you watch a shit ton of movies. Yeah, what have you watched lately that really stands out, like from a director's perspective, on original and interesting? Yeah.
I really like Ari Aster, so I've watched everything by him. I really like all of his shorts. Looking forward to his new Eddington feature that just got a 7-minute standing ovation at Cannes. So I'm looking forward to that coming out. But yeah, all of his shorts are really good, and it's good to kind of see someone that I admire so much where he started out. Because a lot of directors, they just start and they get a bit of luck and they make a first feature, and they don't really have much early work to sort of showcase what it is that how they started. But Ari Aster has maybe 7 or 8 shorts, so it's really good to kind of see the evolution of where he started to where he is now. But for people who don't know, he started with Hereditary for A24, 4 million budget. And then went on to do Midsommar, which was his second feature, which was just incredible. Had a bit of a bigger budget there. And then did Beau is Afraid, which was a bit more self-indulgent, a bit more niche, but yeah, still really good. and he has this sort of shocking quality about his stuff. It feels very real when you're watching it, but he sort of plays on these sort of novelty shock tactics, which is really rare actually. And a lot of directors are kind of following suit with this. So I really admire him. Aronofsky as well. I was a huge fan of Aronofsky. Watched everything he's ever done. And again, like Jawlock was kind of based on Requiem for a Dream, color palette, story a little bit. The mother and the son, at least at the start, that was kind of a base for what we did with Jawlock. But yeah, I watch a lot of stuff. I kind of try and one of the things that I really like doing is going on Letterboxd and just refining. So you can basically get a lot of lists on Letterboxd for people's short films and stuff. And also you can find a lot of shorts from directors that you admire just by going on their portfolio. And then you can filter out by shortest first. So you just get to watch all of the short movies that you wouldn't necessarily usually find. Just bung them on, search it on YouTube and find a lot. So I do a lot of that. Try and watch at least a feature and a couple of shorts a day.
Nice. And what have you watched recently in the last couple weeks or whatever that you would highly recommend to people watching?
Recently, can I go on my Letterboxd just to see?
Yeah.
Just to remind myself of what.
Yeah, when you're one of those famous directors and they come up and ask you, yeah, what's your top 5 Letterboxd?
God, okay.
You'll have it.
Yeah, so top 5. I mean, top 4 for me is Fallen Angels, by Wong Kar-wai, and Eyes Without a Face, from 1960. This weird short film called Untitled Human Mask is like a thing I watched at MoMA in New York. That was really cool. Just 19 minutes. And then Mother by Aronofsky, because I love the biblical secular narrative that he puts into that. So those are my top 4. But what have I watched recently?
Can we call this the goldfish problem? And referring to the last episode?
Yeah, sure.
The goldfish problem.
Yeah, it's the goldfish problem because I claim I'm a goldfish. I can't remember the movie I watched yesterday, at least not the name. And then I somehow remember.
Is this a goldfish thing or is this can I just call you Dory?
Dory. It's almost a compliment.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Dory's always forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God! So I watched The Ugly Stepsister.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Crazy.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I don't like the soundtrack. I'll start with the things I don't like about it. I don't like the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack. I don't like it when you've got a period thing that mixes with a contemporary soundtrack.
Right. Okay.
That is a bit of a bummer, but visually it's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. Norwegian. So it's in Norwegian language. I watched the trailer, and the trailer literally is a rip-off of the Substance.
Okay.
So when you watch that trailer, it's literally, they tried to market it as that. They've obviously seen how successful that's been, and they've just literally tried to do the exact
fake marketing.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a real original thing. They've obviously seen, I don't know what they based it on really, but I think it's partly Norwegian, some of it's Swedish. And it kind of tells the story of one of the ugly stepsisters from Cinderella. So obviously you can take that because it's royalty free or whatever.
Right.
Opens, public domain IP. And they've just made this amazing story about jealousy and the lengths people go to, in their pursuit of trying to be something that they're not. Really, really hit home. Some of it's horrible. Some of it's really, really, dark and gory, but it's that I really like that.
All right, I have to take a look. Yeah, I saw the part where they're about to drive a chisel into her nose, probably with no anesthesia. I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this movie. It's that's already giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Well, when we saw Sinners, I remember you seeing the trailer. You were like, "What the fuck did I just watch?"
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly.
But it's Norwegian. It looked like English.
It's Norwegian. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Norwegian and a bit of Swedish in the story. They read like a book, and it's that Swedish.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. And Sinners. Yeah, that was we talked about on our last episode a little bit, but yeah, what's your hot take on Sinners? And
so I watched it again actually 2 days ago.
Okay.
Because I had my friend from America was visiting, and he hadn't seen it, and it was just we went to go see the Attenborough thing, but we got the date the time wrong.
Oh, okay.
So we ended up watching Sinners. Really like it. I think it's really good, but it does have. I think you can tell it was a rush screenplay. So I think he wrote it in 2 months, and I think there's quite a few things that I would change about it. I think maybe he got a bit. I don't know. I think the music was great in the songs, but I think the score wasn't really a match. I think I've seen a lot of people say about this. Um, I don't know. I like the guy that does the music. He's the guy that did the Oppenheimer soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's great, but I don't think that it was much of a match. There's the actual songs I think were brilliant.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way, the composer Ludwig, I think is his first name. They went to film school together, so they know each other from film
Right,
school. So it's not like, yeah, he didn't come from knowing the guy. Yeah, I mean, he knew the guy. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the first hour was amazing, and I didn't actually watch the trailer before we went to go see it, so I didn't know about the whole vampire aspect
yeah,
of it.
okay,
And I just thought that transition into that part of it was just very, very Dusk Till Dawn tacky, I felt.
yeah,
So the whole like rock element, and then like you've got like all of the blood gushing from it. It just felt like a completely different movie, and I think it was struggling with its identity a little bit. And also one of the things when I get what they're trying to do when they're doing this narration piece where they're talking about the history of music and the history of Black music specifically, and going into all of the history and future after that period in the 1930s. But I don't like it when you get visuals of something that is completely unrelated. So, for instance, obviously the whole film is 1930, and then for some reason we're then watching 90s hip hop dancing, and we're watching Chinese geishas, and we're watching DJs on a DJ decks and electric guitars and all that kind of thing. I think it was completely. I think that's where you know,
kind of took you out. Yeah,
an editor should have come in and said, no, we're going to cut that bit. But you know, that just a personal.
yeah. I think it's. I mean, there's a lot. This is the thing is, I feel like an American might have a different perspective just because it has to do a lot with slavery and stuff. And I think he used it as a platform to talk about how, you know, Black Americans were taken advantage of and exploited. And, you know, they did groundbreaking, I mean, essentially invented rap music, maybe invented a ton of music that then, you know, white people came in and took credit for. And so I think that's, you know, part of what he was saying through this. And I think also when it brought the Irish, he was also kind of treated badly. But in this case, now, you know, he's kind of forcing people into their own world. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things. Maybe it was rushed. I do feel the same, that it feels like the vampire part was kind of Dusk Till Dawn. And maybe it's an ode to Dusk Till Dawn. I don't know if he'll ever admit it, but yeah, I think it's, I feel like Americans will have a slightly different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of also with, you know, Francis Ford Coppola's last movie. I felt like
Megalopolis.
yeah, it was more of like a kind of a essay on America. And so I like the movie, but a lot of people here in Europe didn't, maybe because it's so nuanced. Yeah, and I think it's fair. I mean, I think it was, yeah, I mean, I think it was unexpected, the movie, but to some degree, it was a big giant metaphor for America. And so I don't know. I just feel like I'm just curious because we saw it together, and I think also you brought this up even after we watched it about the modern music being in set 1930s, and you also said that as one of your big, you know, gripes about films. When
I think it just takes you away from being in.
Immersed. I mean, you're immersed in the story. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So even though they did it more as like a spiritual thing, but yeah, I feel like it did kind of.
I think that scene would have been great as a post-credit scene, maybe.
Yeah, but I will tell you, the way it was all blended in and shot, and I mean,
beautiful.
that was like,
yeah,
what the fuck? I mean, that was just amazing. I mean, the whole editing, like, how do you even plan that? That was insane. I think it came out really good. But to your point, yeah, I think when you're seeing, you know, like a Jimi Hendrix style ripping on a guitar in the middle of, you know, 1930s, maybe.
And then there's like a Pioneer decks. Like
yeah.
Some
The
kind of
DJ stuff. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. I get it.
Wasn't for me that bit, but yeah, as a story, I mean, it's definitely not nothing, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely something.
It's a bummer because like we were talking in the last episode about how Sergio Leone is one of my favorite inspirations and directors and stuff, and I liked him well before Quentin Tarantino comes out and talks about how it's like one of his favorite. But I will say that I wanted to make a horror western and also kind of make an ode to From Dusk Till Dawn. Maybe not necessarily an exact, but now I feel like I can't. Like I kind of wanted to make not a vampire, but something else. But this kind of western set in this like town that gets taken over on certain nights by evil spirits, and now I feel like I can't do it
Because he's kind of taken over.
Yeah, I feel like somebody's already done it. Now it's been compared. Then maybe everybody will do it. So I don't know, but who knows? By the time I ever do it, then maybe it'll be long forgotten. I don't know. So, all right. Anything else, you guys? Yeah. What else?
I would say we're coming to an end slowly in this episode. I was thinking maybe we can end on a note what we would like to improve in our next movie. Like one thing that we would really do better than we did last time.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to go first. I want to think about it for a sec.
I can go. From production wise, like actually think about what shots you really want and really be strict about getting only those. Like, yeah, it's kind of risky, but like I want to challenge myself. Like, this is the shot I want. This is what I imagined. I'm going to set up and shoot for that and actually like save some time without shooting safety takes. So I mean, not safety takes, but like, oh, let me get this angle as well, just in case. Just try to be more efficient. So that requires me to think about actually put some time in the pre-production, like really sit down and think about what I really want, instead of saying, oh, let me just figure it out when we actually shoot. That'd be really cool if that can happen and it actually works out. I think it's like the more practice you have, the- you will get better at it. But I would like to get there where I really know, I can really imagine, oh, from the script with the director, I agree, okay, this is what we need to shoot, and we only shoot that. Yeah, that will be cool. So I'm trying to get there.
Yep.
For me, it's camera movement for sure. I want to use more sliders, less gimbals, more sliders, less gimbals. Hopefully more Steadicam, more jips. Yeah, like make sure everything is moving because, as I said in the last episode, I'm in my Heute von Heutema phase, so I want to make sure everything keeps moving most of the time.
So, there's some famous directors that like say, don't move the effing camera, unless it's motivated. But yeah, yeah.
Talking about like crazy movements, I'm talking about a little bit of movement.
Yeah.
It just keeps it dynamic and interesting, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially for the audience, for the young audience,
How about you, Ricky?
I think just setting clear budgets for different departments.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Because we did go over quite a bit, but it's you live and learn. We had a lot of people to manage, and it was I didn't really set a clear budget for the props and the sort of visuals, because a lot of the props I selected myself. So I was just like, okay, well, I want to have that, and like you sort of see, you go to Babelsberg and you see like the ideal scenario in every single thing that you want. I was like, okay, I need all of this, obviously. So yeah, I didn't really set a clear budget because I thought, well, if it's going to be on, if I have the option to have this and we're getting a van into our set anyway, then we might as well have the best visual. But yeah, I think you do need to set clear budgets and clear boundaries for that, because it did go a little bit out of control. So yeah.
Cool. And yeah, I think for me, it's maybe kind of both of your points. It's I want to do a lot more previs. I want to be far more intentional with how I'm shooting and more shooting to the edit. I think the beginner never shoots enough. The novice shoots too much, and the expert kind of shoots the right amount. And I look back at film, and film is like $200 a minute, right? Maybe even more for 35, maybe even way more for 70 millimeter. And if you think about it, like if you're a low budget person shooting on film, you basically created and edited the whole movie in your head. And so you know exactly what you need. I'd like to get more to that. And some famous directors like Spielberg and stuff, they know it so well, they kind of shoot to the edit. And even Robert Rodriguez is saying like, yeah, I don't get them out. I know I'm only going to use a wide for this one piece. So that's all I'm shooting. And so I'd like to get to that. So that means it's like you've thought about it. You're very intentional. Like I always see the movie in my head, but I've always often gotten coverage, and so I kind of want to be more precise there. And then the same to your point is I want to move the camera, but I want to move it in service of the story and the emotion. So I really want to focus my next one on really capturing emotional beats in every scene, using the camera, moving the camera to give a really good emotional feeling to the audience. So those are the kind of the two big things. And I think it boils down to planning. I mean, it requires good previs and good planning. 100%. Yeah, I think that's it. It's a pretty good episode.
That's it. That was the second episode. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube.
Actually, don't even. We should have opened with this. Don't subscribe. Don't like. Just watch the whole thing. More important that you watch the whole thing than anything else.
At this point, they would have.
Yeah. I know it's unfortunate. We should put this in the beginning. Put this in the beginning.
Yeah.
Don't like. Don't subscribe. Just watch the whole thing.
Thanks, Ricky.
Yeah.
for
Thank
being
you so
here.
much.
Thank you so much, and see you next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.